Democrat slammed for using DNC position to raise money for personal PAC. David Hogg, who was recently appointed as the vice chairman of the Democratic National Committee, is being accused by members of his own party of demonstrating, quote, a stunning lack of judgment by using his position with the DNC to request donations from Democrat supporters for his personal political action committee, his personal PAC. The New York Post reported that within the first couple of weeks of serving as vice chairman of the DNC, Hogg has already used DNC contact lists to solicit donations to his Leaders We Deserve PAC. According to Federal Election Commission records obtained through the outlet, Hogg receives over $100,000 in compensation from the PAC each year and has already been paid $175,000 through the PAC. So he works for the PAC, and that's his salary. Okay, so we talked about this a couple weeks ago. David Hogg, he's an anti-gun activist. He's an extremist when it comes to Democrat policies. I mean, not only has there not been a Democrat policy in the last, 4 years or so that he hasn't embraced, but he doesn't just embrace, he goes overboard. Like, he is an absolute extremist when it comes to left of center policies, but particularly guns. He's particularly anti-gun. That's his thing. He was elected to the DNC's leadership, the Democratic National Committee. And at the time, when I talked about this a couple weeks ago, I said, guys, it's never good when somebody we disagree with, especially someone who's so vehemently against the Second Amendment, it's never good when they get a position, when they get a bigger megaphone. But I think this kid's going to screw up, and that's exactly what he did. It's complicated. There's a particular job and a lot of rules you have to follow. And he's put himself in a situation at a very young age.
His brain's not done growing yet.
Yeah. And I don't think the rest of him's done growing yet either, man. This kid's like a $110 or whatever, soaking wet. He's kind of, anyway. So he's now got he's got a role, a very specific defined role with the Democratic National Committee, where he has to follow some very specific rules. He's given himself a role with leading this PAC that has a less defined role, but an even more defined set of rules that he has to follow. PACs, I know a little something about PACs. You have to follow these rules. They're not just suggestions. And these rules aren't just like, well, gee golly, we sure hope you do the right thing. No, if you run afoul of these rules, you could go to jail. So he gets himself elected to the DNC and then takes their list, according to this article, and solicits these donors, the DNC's donors, solicits them for donations to his PAC that he makes a living off of. Now, if you're not aware, a list of donors, that's an asset. It's not the phone book. The phone book, is or some kind of list on the internet or whatever. That's public. Anybody can see that. A list that you've created of donors, that database, that is an asset. That is something that you can be protective of. Even though some donor might be on 57 lists, doesn't matter. That list that you have, that's an asset. So he took an asset of the Democratic National Committee and used it to enrich another organization, his organization, that, oh, by the way, he gets paid from. So I run a PAC. If I joined, let's say, the Republican Central Committee, if I got elected on the Republican Central Committee, and I took their list, their database, and said, hey, join San Diego County gun owners, donate to San Diego County gun owners, within a week of getting elected, by the way. If I did that, there'd be some issues. I'd be worried about being investigated. I'd be worried about not just fines, but maybe even jail time. That's a serious violation. And this kid does this within weeks of joining. He doesn't know what he's doing. His ego, his lack of experience are causing him to do bad things. I think that, interestingly enough, there was a lot of criticism from Democrats and in fact, here was a quote. David Hogg, talk about living up to your name, a trough of DNC dollars, all for him, and he doesn't seem to give an oink. This was the New York Post quoted a top Democrat. I don't know if they actually named him, but
they don't. I read through it.
Okay, it was a top Democrat who says this about him. So they're mocking him, you know. And like I said, you know, there's a very specific role, and he's in this role, and he's not fulfilling it. Well, that means the people that the DNC needs to get elected, they're not getting the benefit of somebody who's competent and making good decisions in that role, which means that they're suffering across the board.
Another senior Democratic Party official told the New York Post, it's especially important for all Democratic national officials to focus on raising support for the party and not using their position to raise money for themselves or their personal political PACs. It's a stunning lack of judgment that is concerning many people.
Yes.
They're being honest about it.
They are. I
that
think
says a lot that they're being honest.
It does. It says they really don't like this guy.
Yeah.
And otherwise they'd cover for him and gee golly gosh.
Silent.
Yeah.
Yep.
And this is bad
Yep.
for them. But I don't know. I kind of hope he stays there and continues to screw up and continues to not do the right thing and continues to focus on himself rather than the job that he's supposed to do.
Yep.
So I wanted to bring that to your attention. Sam, you got what are your thoughts on that, Sam?
It's kind of funny how quickly that happened. Number
right?
one, and number two, it sounds like his. I guess it isn't exactly a personal PAC, but the PAC that he co-founded and of which he is, what is he, the chair or co-chair?
Of the PAC?
Yeah. Sounds like he
yeah.
draws a pretty darn good paycheck from that.
It says vice chairman.
Which is fine. I mean, if he's paying himself from the PAC, I work for a PAC. You know, I get it. I understand that. He's in a national PAC. He's getting paid more than I am. You know, he can make the argument that it's a national PAC or whatever. I get it. I'm not worried about the guy making a living. You know, if people value the work that he does and they decide, hey, we're going to support this PAC that, you know, because of the work that he does, great. You know, I'd be a hypocrite to say otherwise. But, you know, stealing a list from the Democratic National Committee in order to fund that was clearly a conflict of interest. And I'm not an attorney. I don't know all the details, but what's being reported, I think is potentially a criminal act. And they could really hammer him on this if they chose to.
I think that's one example of when age, in this case, you know, someone who's young, by no means does that always mean that they're not going to be suitable for the job. But I think this is one example where his lack of life experience, his lack of understanding the importance of following rules and laws and not just doing what you think in your head sounds like a good idea is really hurting him.
And his ego.
Yeah.
He's got he's enormously egotistical. If you look at his tweets or whatever, you know, you know, it's easy to call him a snot-nosed little brat, but he is an adult, and really what it boils down to is he's got this enormous ego that comes from I don't know where. Comes from he's accomplished exactly nothing.
Right.
You know, so I don't know what he thinks, you know, he's done in life, but he's got this enormous ego about it.
If I'm not mistaken, some types of campaign finance violations are felony offenses under federal law. Mm-hmm. So I don't think this qualifies, but I'm not a lawyer either, and I don't even pretend to begin to understand the intricacies of campaign finance law. But it would be kind of a funny irony if he were convicted of felony campaign finance violations and therefore not allowed to own firearms.
Couldn't exercise the right he's fighting against. Yeah, I think everybody's heard of Dinesh D'Souza, and he actually did jail time for not exactly this, but something very similar. It was a campaign law. Campaign finance law that he was found guilty of and did jail time for it. That's rare, but it happens. You can absolutely it is a felony. Could be what they're describing could possibly be a felony. So I don't know what's going to happen, but clearly he's pissed off some of the Democrats in his leadership position. So it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. Screw you, Hogg. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. I'm Michael from Gun Owners Radio. If you liked what you saw, please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and make a comment. Help us out. Go to gunownersradio.com. Thanks for watching.